everybody. Welcome to another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast with my dear brother Colin Harbour. He's right there in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Marcus Ellis. I'm here in Pensacola, Florida. Colin, why don't you tell him who we are?
We are two lifelong friends with a love of baseball, music, motivation, and inspiration mixed with a little bit of nostalgia, culture, transformation, and fun. And we want you to take the journey with us.
This is Strike a Chord Live podcast. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard this morning.
It didn't go for a few minutes, and then
it didn't. It did its own thing, but we know StreamYard has a mind of its own on my computer. But good morning, everybody. As hopefully you heard on the audio, welcome to another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast with my dear brother Colin Harbour. He's right there in the middle of the screen. He's in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. This is my other brother from another mother, Mike Strong. He's in Marblehead, Massachusetts, where I spent a lot of time in 1993 when I saw, I think it was a 6-night run of the Grateful Dead at the Boston Garden, the original garden. So we got Mike Strong here, Colin. I'm super excited about this. We got 30 minutes. Let's go. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, Marcus. Good to see you, brother. Colin, great to meet you this morning. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Nice to meet you. And I know we were talking about, you trimming down and getting healthier. I don't know, trimming down necessarily, but getting healthy. When I look at this, I see you and Mark as like two little thin slices of bread and me being like the big old fat piece of meat in the middle. So I think I need to start maybe go on that diet that you're talking about, or not necessarily diet, but food, anyway, we can talk about that later. It's just staying in my mind here. It's like, I got to get skinny if I'm going to be on a podcast with skinny people. So
love it.
Well, Mike, welcome, brother. You are up in Mass. You got a great story. So let's get into it. I mean, what would you like the fine folks that are listening and watching? What would you like them to know about you first and foremost?
Well, you said it. I live here in Marblehead. I grew up in Lynn. It's 2 towns over. I left for a little while to go in the Air Force in the early 80s, right out of high school. And I've been back here ever since. And I've lived in Marblehead since the late 90s. So it's the longest I've really lived anywhere in one place. And I lived in this particular place for over 20 something years. I don't even remember.
Colin, I can tell you that Marblehead is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Right on the ocean.
What's that? Right on the ocean. That's the best clam chowder I've ever had in Marblehead.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yep. So,
okay.
Man,
maybe I'll
Ryan,
make it. I've only been to Mass. I've only been up there once.
You've only been to Mass once?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. I was just, I think I was just like, I was at a business conference and I was like smack dab. What I felt like was in the middle of Boston. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just kind of like right in the middle.
Real quick, I want to acknowledge some people. Good morning, Lauren Lee, Misty Dawn Melvin, Ryan Austin, I love you, brother. Doug Stutzman, I love you. Mark Anderson, who's right down the street from me, I love you. Good to see you. Summer Stars here, we love you. Let's get into Bruce Pulver's here. We love you, Bruce.
Guy.
Yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So, Mike, you are from Massachusetts. You went to the Air Force, and your story begins there. What happened, man?
Well, I always say that I left Lynn, Massachusetts, because Lynn was my problem. I started drinking in the 5th grade, picked up drugs in the 7th grade, and I was off and running. Sports went away in the 10th grade. And so I figured if I get out of Lynn, that'll fix my problem. So I ended up in the Air Force, and my buddy Dave Pelletier was stationed at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. That's where my basic training went. I got a 1-day pass to go hang out with him. What did I do? Went to the NCO club and drank with him. I could not drink. Given the opportunity to drink, I had no defense against picking up a drink. So here I am in basic training. I could have got thrown out. So that started it off. I ended up in Bitburg, Germany, and couldn't stop drinking. The beer in Bitburg, they had a brewery downtown, Bitburger Pils. And you would look at the inside of the bottle and you would see, what's today's date? The 25th. You look at the label, it might say August 24th. Like it was just bottled the day before. Wow. Phenomenal stuff, phenomenal wine. And in May of 1982. I had only been over there since January, February. I was so drunk, my roommates locked me in my room, and I decided I want to keep drinking. So I opened up the window and jumped. I happened to be on the 3rd floor, but I jumped, and I think I crawled out. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know. Whatever. And ended up rupturing with a ruptured spleen, lacerated pancreas. All my bodily fluids had released. They told me the EMTs had to bring me back. Had no clue. I woke up and there was all these nurses, and they had the little white, little old-fashioned thing on their head, and a Japanese doctor with thick lenses saying, "Mr. Strong, Mr. Strong." And I'm like, am I dead? And so they took out my spleen. I have no spleen. I have a big scar. If you look at my stomach, I have this big scar. They took my spleen out. And I was like, I was 19 years old. Like, maybe I need to look at my drinking. 2 months later, at a party, 4th of July, somebody handed me a beer, started drinking. Can't stop. So that was Germany. Now I'm like, all right, now I got to get out. Now Germany's beautiful, right? I think Marblehead's beautiful. Germany was phenomenal. Great food, great people, great countryside. I got to get out of Germany. Germany's my problem. So I ended up in Lubbock, Texas. Started running with the same. Again, I'm going to change. I'm going to do things differently. Do it different. I'm not messing around. I got 18 months left. I'm going to get out. I'm going to go back to Lynn because, Lynn worked out so well before, right? Let me go back to the Lions then, And so I was running with a couple of friends of mine, and one of my buddies had a good connection for drugs downtown. So we really had access to anything we wanted. Alcohol was always on the table. The drugs were always available. And there was a guy that was stationed with us who he said that one of the guys we used to work with had assaulted his wife, raped her. And he tried to file charges on the base, and the base said, that's a downtown thing. You need to go downtown. He went downtown, and they said it was a he said, she said, consensual. There was no rape kit done, I guess. So this dude that was accused of it started harassing this guy on the flight line. He used to work on airplanes too with the drugs and alcohol. He worked on F-15s in Germany, and I worked on T-37s, which is the first jet they fly in after flight school. And here I am, high as a kite, servicing these airplanes. So he would drive down the flight line and harass this guy. So he went to the commander and said, hey, look, this guy's harassing me. I need to get out of here. And he goes, well, we can't just transfer you. He said, what if I turn people in for dealing drugs? Let's have a conversation. So they brought in the OSI, DEA, Lubbock County Police, and they set up about a dozen sting operations. Can you get me this? Yeah, we'd drive downtown, pick it up, bring it back. Drive downtown, pick it up, being followed the whole time. So one night, March 16th of 1985, 6 months before I'm supposed to be separated, we're driving back. We told this guy and we go, this is the last one. We're done. We're out. We just want to go home. And we're driving down this road, and the car slows down in front of us. Kevin's like, what's this? He pulls over here. They pull over here, over here, over here. They drive us to the shoulder of the road. 45s, 38s, 9 mils pointed at my head. Boom. Take Kevin out. They take Julie downtown. They pull out Hannon. We realize Hannon's the rat, and court-martialed and sentenced to 2 years in jail. Served 11 months. Yeah. So that was my illustrious military career. Still, I came home and kept drinking. 1981, different things had happened, so we only have 30 minutes, but 1981, like I woke up one morning, I go, I'm all done. Kind of like we were talking about the food last October, woke up, I can't eat like this anymore. I woke up this January morning in 1991, I go, I'm all done. All done. Ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and 32 years later, I haven't had a drink, pill, joint, mind, mood-altering substance since. And since then, like, my life is freaking amazing. So that's the Reader's Digest version of how I ended up.
That's the thumbnail version. That's an interesting story. You know what I was thinking, Mark, is we was talking about spring of 85. Just to kind of date it for us, I still lived in Pensacola then. I hadn't even moved from Pensacola. So we're talking about a lifetime ago. essentially, right? And part of what comes to mind to me, I know we talked about it beforehand. We didn't script this out. We're just gonna freestyle. But one of the things that comes to mind initially with me is we all live multiple lifetimes within our lifespan, if you will, right? We all have decisions to make that we can start over, or that we can continue down a path, right? So when Mike was talking about, well, hey, this happened in 91, this happened in 85, this happened in 81. I mean, it's just so many different stories, right? We are a culmination of so many different stories and decisions. And then, ultimately here we are in 2023, the result of all that, right?
Yeah, man. And, the other thing that strikes a chord with me about what Mike's saying is that this is his story. This is what God has placed in his path that he can use to inspire and help other people. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you, once that happened, once you did your time, what happened next? What did you do next?
I got home in 86 and, got a job and ended up going to work. But in 91, when I got sober, no clue how to live in this world without something in my body. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to be a human being. I don't know how to be a friend. I was like, when they talk about a bottom, it was a bottom. So the 180, my 180 brand, 180 voices, 180 real estate, 180 all my email addresses. It's that pivot from where I was to where I'm going to continue to be, right? So I went to Alcoholics Anonymous all the time. And in 1998, I had a friend of mine was dying of a brain tumor. Guy I met in AA, Springsteen fan. Springsteen was just in Boston last night, so he and I were simpatico with that. Like, I was a big Springsteen fan, and so Lenny was dying, and he couldn't go out to meetings anymore. So we had these meetings up at his house, and there was this priest guy, Father Jack. Didn't know he was a priest. If you saw him at a meeting, he had running clothes on and like sweatsuits. And I saw him in a collar twice. Once he had a meeting that he had to go to for the archdiocese, and the other time was in his casket when he died. Well, 3 times. He celebrated Mass for us one time. So 3 times I saw him in clerics. Otherwise, he was just Jack. And the late 90s, I was really struggling. Had been without a drink for however long. I had another relationship end very colorfully. And I asked him for help. I go, Jack, this is going on. I was about to quit a job. I was quitting the relationship. Or I wasn't quitting the relationship. The relationship was ending. And he said, I got something that might help you. He said, it's called the Big Book Step Study process, where you take the original text of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's steps, directions on how to follow the steps in that book. But it's also a path to God. Like, I wasn't back to church. I was never, ever, ever going to go back to the Catholic Church. I was baptized Catholic, and I swore I would scream from the rooftops, I'm never, ever, ever going back to the Catholic Church. So we went through this Big Book Step Study process. And there's a whole chapter called We Agnostics, written for me, I believe, because it talks about, there are many people that get sober that already have a God, whether it's Jesus Christ or whether it's just good orderly direction. Like, that's what I was going on, right? Group of drunks, good orderly direction. Like, that was the best I could do. And in that We Agnostics, like, it has 2 pivot points, two foundations. God either is or he isn't. What's our choice to be? Or do I now believe, or am I willing to believe? Like, that was an easy one. Do I now believe that there's a God, or am I willing to believe? Pretty big window to climb through. Okay, I can be willing to believe. Like, 10 pages later, it says, God either is or he isn't. What's your choice? So I had to make a choice. All right, God is. So I ended up going through that process. 4th step, extensive. 5th step, sitting with him. He said, you want reconciliation? I go, no, I'm all set. That's going to bring me back in the club. Like, I don't want to go back to this Catholic thing. And in 2000, I went on this retreat called Cursillo. Cursillo, Spanish word for course. And the whole title is like a short course in Christianity, translated from Spanish to English. And it was Catholic. And there's Eucharist, and people are talking about Catholic. I'm in this retreat. I'm going, what's all this talk about Jesus? I thought this was a Catholic retreat. Like, like I had no clue. Like I was so clueless. You know, it wasn't my CCD teachers. It was me as a kid, focused more on drugs and alcohol in the 10th grade than I was on trying to learn about our faith. And it's a very long story, but over the course of so I lived my weekend in April of 2000, and I started doing a lot of reading. I would talk to Jack. I started going to Mass. I didn't take the Eucharist because I learned what the Eucharist was on my weekend. I would call him after Mass and say, hey, the gospel was this today. Is it true? What does it mean? The priest said this in his homily. Is it true? What does it mean? Somebody handed me a book called The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. I started reading that book, and it was an amazing, amazing awakening. Like, there's more pieces of the original papyrus available than there is of anything else in antiquity. Yet we don't doubt, Alexander the Great, but we're doubting Jesus is who he said he was. I was working at a print shop at the time, my buddy's print shop, and it's very high Jewish area in this area, Marblehead, Swampscott, and the multiple temples. So we would print this book of life for either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, I forget which, and it would list all the dead. But on the cover it said like 5625-2023, and I would go, "What's this?" He said, "Well, the Jews count back to day one." All right, that's cool. So I saw this cute redhead up at St. Basil's, and she was pretty cute. I go, maybe there's something to this Jesus thing, So I saw her running around, and I ended up going. I used to ride the Pan Mass Challenge, it's a 200-mile bike ride from central Massachusetts out to Provincetown. So it's August of 2000, and I'm out in Sturbridge, Mass, central Massachusetts. I go into where the opening ceremonies were by myself, right? The room's empty. It's 3-4 hours before showtime, and the door in the corner opens up. In walks the redhead from St. Basil's. Do I know you from St. Basil's? Oh, I get a big hug, blah, blah, blah. Alex. She said, you go to the beach mass? I go, what's the beach mass? Oh, there's a beach mass every year up in Salisbury. I said, are you going? She said, I'm going to the beach mass. So I go to the beach mass. 300 people, hands in the air, praising, worshiping, and I walk the crowd. No redhead. Start looking around. All the stuff I had been doing from April until now, I'm processing. And I go, all right, what are you going to do, Mike? Waves are crashing. I go, everybody here believes. You don't believe. Are you like the lone dissenter here or what? I start thinking about the case for Christ, my conversations with Jack, like all this stuff I had been looking into. And I think of the book of life. And I think of that dash in the middle, right? There's the poem, the dash in the middle. And I go, they changed the way the world counts time based on his birth. Whoops. Drop to my knees, ball in my eyes. You got me. I give. After Mass, I go to the parking lot. I call Jack. I go, Jack, this happened. He said, I'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock for confession. Next day, confession, went to Mass. First time in my life I received the Eucharist, I believe, as pure as the day I was baptized. Now I'm back in the club. Since then, like, my life is dedicated to St. Basil's. I cook meals up there every month. Like, I'm up there every Monday night for Mass. Most of my friends are from St. Basil's. Like, it's incredible. Jesus Christ really is central in my life. And I would have never said that long ago. It blows my mind.
Colin, it's just such an amazing story. It's a story of perseverance, first of all, and then redemption. And I love Mike's story because I know that a lot of people are seeking. A lot of people want that moment where they hit their knees and they're bawling their eyes out, right, Colin?
Yeah, the burning bush moment, maybe. Yeah.
White light. It's mountaintop, white light, Mount Tabor experience, without a doubt.
So that was 2000, 2001, right?
Yep.
So we're 20 plus years from that. Yep. What has happened in your life? What are you doing business wise that you're able to weave your faith into business? Because what you're doing is, whether you know it or not, and I think you do, you're witnessing to people by telling them your story. Sure. How are you weaving your faith into your business? Because I know that you're a businessman, How are you weaving that into your business to profess your faith to other people?
Yeah. So I on one of these retreats back in the mid 2000s, you have a team. So after you've lived this Cursillo, they take lay people and they make up a team of 25 men, mostly all lay people, or men and women. They have men's weekends. They're separate genders because of the intimacy of what you share about your journey. So I was on a prison team with a guy who used to have a bulletin company, printed church bulletins digitally. And I had been a printer. I studied printing in high school because I had a crush on Laurie Reardon. I found out Laurie Reardon in the 9th grade. I found out she was studying printing at graphic arts. I had no idea what I was going to study. I go, that's what I'm studying. I'm going to graphic arts. No idea what graphic arts was. So I always say God used the raging hormones of a 15-year-old boy to teach him a trade that he would ultimately use down the road. So I had been in and out of printing and publishing and all that for, the better part of my life. And so I was on this prison team with this guy that owned a bulletin company, and his kid was working with him, and he said, you should come work for us. So I started working doing their printing church bulletins for, at the time, 30 bulletins. There was no print. He wasn't doing any outside printing, like printing for the churches, printing for the diocese, archdiocese, other ministries. It was just bulletins, and they sell the ads on the back, and that's how they drive their revenue. Well, around 2010, we ended up merging with Catholic Television. They moved it down to the building where the Archdiocese of Boston is. So that's where I'm currently at. So I oversee what's called pilot printing, which is we print for churches, we print for dioceses, we go national. I do stuff for churches all over the country. I'm working on a book right now for an anniversary book for St. Michael's Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm able to take that faith that I have, and like I can talk scripture with a priest on the phone, and I call it church cred, right? So if I can talk about if I'm talking to him on Monday, and I go, geez, much like what happened in yesterday's Gospel Father about whatever about Thomas putting his finger in the side, like I gain credibility with them that I'm not just a guy, like I'm actually a Catholic. We have a chapel in the building. I go to mass almost every day, say the rosary every day with another group of people. So I'm able to take my faith and build a Catholic business. Like we did the year we merged with Catholic Television, we did $30,000 in outside print sales.
Wow.
And now it's north of 6.
Wow.
So whatever that is, how many of 1,000%? It's grown with my drive, ambition, and the help of Jesus Christ. It's all God driven. It's not Mike driven.
Well, it's so amazing, and I love that. I mean, it's how things exponentially, just explode there. So in the 5 minutes we have left, we really do want to promote your YouTube page, which folks, we have the link there.
YouTube channel, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry, leave it together. But let's talk about 180 Voices in the 5 minutes that we have left, Mike.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So again, like I said, my brand is 180, right? So I've been saying forever, I'm going to start a podcast, 180 Voices, 180 Voices. I want to talk to people like me who have been, at a bottom and their lives are completely different, right? So we talk, our mutual friend, Glenn Lundy, perfect. Like he epitomizes that. Michelle McLean epitomizes that. My buddy Dave Seymour, you were connected to him through one of your mentors. Like he was, at a bottom, and now he's, doing, mega developments down in Naples, Florida. So so I wanted to interview people like that. So I had no content. Like how can I also, am seeing myself on bigger stages. Given this talk, that the longer version of what I just talked about today, I don't know how many hundreds of times, right? I don't even know. I don't count. And in order to get on bigger stages, there's a big conference I applied to be on out in Indianapolis next June, and they said, we want to see your YouTube channel so we can see you're speaking. And I got no content, so I've been going live on Facebook every day. And it simulcasts. You got me going on the StreamYard the other day. So now I stream to Facebook and YouTube live every day at 5 o'clock. We had a friend of ours, Anne Marie, who we've been saying one Hail Mary every day at 5 o'clock since 2017 when she was diagnosed with a rare form of lung cancer. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go live at 5 o'clock. We'll say the Hail Mary for Anne Marie. And she actually passed away last Sunday. So the Hail Mary now at 5 o'clock is for the repose of her soul. And so that's what 180 Voices is. So it's really that pivot. When I get sober, like I would hear people in meetings go, I'm 360 degrees better than I've ever been. I go, no, dude. That brings you back to where you were. Like you're 180 degrees different. So that began the brand. When I go, I want to be, so now I aspire to be 180 degrees different every day. How can I be better, the exact opposite of what I was yesterday, on a positive note? Can I be more positive? Can I have more growth? Breakfast with Champions is really kind of was the Big Book Step Study was the launching pad. Breakfast with Champion was throwing like fuel on the fire, man.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that you and I got to hang out. It was actually 2 years ago, July. We were in Queens, New York at the Breakfast of Champions Consortium or Consortium, whichever way you want to say it. And Mike and I spent a lot of time together, especially during this fashion show that was kind of funny. And we just hung out and talked during that. So I've actually...
Me, you, and Scott Simons. I got a picture somewhere, the three of us, me, you, and Scott Simons.
Yeah, I was looking for that picture too, and I didn't get it together quick enough. But the cool thing about this, Colin, is that Mike, I can see your two links are live up at the top of the page.
Cool.
So,
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had a larger audience live than we have before because you're here. And the cool thing about it is that your story is just going out there. And Bruce Pulver's commenting on it, and Christina Macy, and all the people that we know and love. But I mean, I don't know who Randy Hagar is and Robert Morris is, but they're here because
they're my boys from St. Basil's Cursillo.
There you go. Yeah. So what the point, Colin, is that, as we come together, where two or more gather, Jesus and God are there. The message is out. We're just normal Joe Blows. We've all gone through trials and tribulations, but the point being is through perseverance and faith, we get to the other side, right?
That 180. Everybody has a 180.
Sorry, I pulled up the YouTube channel 180, and it is live. So you actually are live on your page, and you'll have that. I think it saves under your live tab too. So
cool.
So you'll have that available. But yeah, sorry, I just pulled it up, and then it was like, oh, I got to close it real fast because there's background talking now. Sorry.
Well, we didn't hear it. So, but yeah, okay. I mean, we got Debbie Kelly Strong is here. Oh, Mike just sent the image, but I can't put it up.
I did. I see the image.
Wow, those are handsome dudes there. I don't know. That Simons guy is a little ugly, but we're all right.
But he's such a good guy, man. He
is.
His personality overrides his looks, man. He's
I'm kidding. He talks about how he used to shave in the dark because he couldn't stand his face, and that's
the best. That is such an unbelievable line, man. Unbelievable. Yeah, really that's another 180 story. Like Scott Simons would be a good person for the podcast,
Amen. Well, I think we have a lot more to talk about, Mike. Unfortunately, we have to wrap things up because Colin and I have children to take to school. Yeah. But Colin, do you have any takeaways? I'm gonna put you on the spot before we go in the minute. What you got out of this before we go.
Yeah, I think, what I mentioned earlier was really kind of struck me and still thinking about it is the different lifetimes. I mean, the stories that we started with were in 81 and 85, or at least 85. Then we went to 91. Then we went to 2000. If my mind is working correctly this morning, there were some dates like that. And again, what's resonating with me today, or what's striking a chord with me today, is the different lifetimes. I mean, again, what he was talking about in the spring of 85, Mark, you and I were still hanging out in 7th grade in Pensacola before I moved, and we didn't talk for 30 years. And then we started doing, so there's just these segments of life, right? There's these, whatever you want to call it. I'm still developing the thought. And, you can do a 180. You can make a change. We all have choices every day, right? It's like the choice. God exists. God is or isn't, right? Well, you're either going to get better or you're not today. you're going to do this or that. So it's these choices, and they start to change your trajectory. They start to change your direction. And that's just kind of what I've been thinking about as he was talking today.
And that's awesome, man, because what for some reason, a lot of my devotionals that have been coming to me are about our thoughts. And we talk about that a lot, but through scripture, it's telling us whatever you think is going to happen. We know the Henry Ford quote that we always say, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
That's right.
So what Mike is saying is it's a decision, folks. We have to make the decision to either change or improve our lives, and most importantly, to change or improve somebody else's life first, and then your life comes, right?
Right. So that my awakening to coming back to the church, I've cooked I don't know how many meals, I don't know how many thousands of people I have cooked food for up at St. Basil's. So I'm able to take the pain. Enough pain's a great motivator, brings me back to the church, and then because he touched me so deeply and profoundly, I'm able to go up there every month and cook for 50 people a month times 9 a year times all the other events that we do up there. So yeah, it's giving back far less than he's given me.
Amen. Well, Mike, man, I love you, brother. Thank you for being on here. Please come back whenever you want to. It can be next week, whatever. Whenever, come back. We love to continue this discussion. We want to thank you guys for watching live. We've had up to 20 people on here live this morning. We thank you guys, and all of you folks watching on the hashtag replay, as the kids call it. We thank you. We love you. We will be back here Wednesday for another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast. We thank you for watching. Peace and chicken grease. We are out. Let's see if the audio will work on the outro like it didn't on the intro. It works. Hey.